up, you guys? Welcome back to the Lift Her Up podcast. I am your host, Latrice, and if you have been watching or subscribed for a while, then welcome back. And if it is your first time to the channel, then just welcome. Now, I know y'all probably looking like, girl, this ain't a Friday, this ain't Thursday. Like, those are your typical post days. So what we got going on here? And I am trying to be the best steward of what God has given me on this platform. Like I've said before, I'm very appreciative and grateful for the new growth of this channel and the platform. So I am trying to make sure I get more content out to you guys. So I will be posting more frequently. I'm going to try to do at least twice a week from here on out. Now, these episodes won't be as long and long winded, I should say, as my regular episodes, but I just want to make sure that I am giving the content that you guys are asking for because a couple weeks ago, I put out a poll on what topics you wanted to hear me speak about and just to dive more into. And I wanted to give some room for that. So I think I'm going to do a bit of a series over the next few weeks about a particular topic. But based on that poll, life transitions had the most votes. So I'm going to be talking about transitions in life and focused on that for a while, at least for the next couple of weeks. But today, in regards to transitions, I wanted to talk about why they bother us so much, why we tend to hate them, honestly, but also why we need them and why they are important, why they end up being important for us. So, why do we tend to stay away from transitions or do we tend to not like them? So, of course, transitions are inconvenient, right? They typically come at the most inconvenient times to us. It is the reconfiguring of our time and our schedules of the things we have become acquainted with. It's having to make way for new things that we're not used to, having to make adjustments that we're not used to. And all of those things can be very, again, inconvenient and uncomfortable. As humans, we're just creatures of habit. So when something disrupts our patterns, our flows, our cycles, of course, it is going to be labeled as uncomfortable. And anything uncomfortable to us, we want to steer clear of altogether. But whenever a transition comes, it notifies us that we have to make that pivot. And a lot of times where there is a shift or a pivot, we don't want to make those pivots. Again, uncomfortability. So that's some of the reason why that transitions, especially for me, I can attest to that transitions in my life have been so uncomfortable. It's because I haven't seen it coming, and it always requires me to make an adjustment that I feel like maybe I'm not prepared for, or I've become accustomed to doing things the way that I have been, and I don't want to make the adjustment that's necessary. Another reason that transitions can be uncomfortable and difficult is because it's usually a season when God asks us to give something up or to try something new. So it can be a shedding of something old, of something that we have done before, and He's asking us to adopt a new way of doing things or a new way of thinking or a new way of operating, a new strategy on how to get through. And you know what's really frustrating when you think that something has been working for a while for you and it's going well, but then God tells you to stop doing the thing that's been going well for you and do it a different way. Like, that's real frustrating because it's like, well, Lord, this is working. So why do I have to give this up? But we have to be obedient to His voice and pivot and shift anyway, because the Lord is trying to prepare us. So, with giving up something old, think about the Lord leading the Israelites into the wilderness from Egyptian bondage and slavery captivity. Um, the wilderness was their transition season between slavery and their promised land. So they needed that transition season in order to purge out the old and remember the ways of their forefathers so they could get reacclimated to their faith and the things that God needed them to do in order to move forward. So the main point that I wanted to make is that as much as we dislike transitions, as much as we think that we don't need them, we actually really do. And they are very important for us because they are God's way of preparing us. And before we are able to get to another season, we first have to be prepared before we are presented. And that is the opportunity that transitions give to us, to be prepared before we are presented. God reminded me of this verse in Esther. So Esther 2:12 says, during the year before each young woman's turn to go see King Xerxes, the harem regulation required her to receive beauty treatments with oil of myrrh for 6 months and then with perfumes and cosmetics for another 6 months. So these women who the king was preparing, who were preparing to go before the king, they had to go through this process of beautification before they were even presented to him. So they had to first, before they could be presented for the role, they had to be prepared for the role that they were desiring to fill. Okay, I'm gonna let that sit for a second. So they could not be presented to the king just as is. They could not be presented to him just straight from their hometowns, like, okay, like, we're here, we're the prettiest girls out of our town, like, give us the crown, right? No, they had to first go through a process. And why? We had to ask ourselves why. So not only was it protocol back then, but also, can you imagine someone entering a palace that has no home training? Okay, imagine the mess that could cause to a kingdom. And King Xerxes, he was already cleaning up from Vashti, right? But imagine bringing in the ordinary mindsets that they had into a royal arena. It wouldn't happen. It wouldn't happen. Before they were able to get the role, they had to first be prepared. You cannot train for your next in your next. You have to first train and then get there. So you can't walk into promotion. You have to train for it. And that preparation then postures you to receive the favor that's attached to your next assignment. It attaches you to your next assignment. So you have to first prepare, and then the Lord will give opportunity for you to be presented. So, again, we dislike transition seasons. They are uncomfortable to us, yes. However, we need them. And many of us are praying for the Lord to bless us in mighty ways, for him to expose us to great people and make our names great and all the things, right? And it's not saying that we can't ask for those things, but please know that when you ask the Lord for promotion, when you ask him to expose you and to make you a light on top of a hill and do all those things, it's going to come with the transition season. It is, because you have to prepare for next. He can't just plop you into it. You have to go through the process. You have to go through the process. Oftentimes it's the wilderness. Oftentimes it's the beautification. It's the learning of the things that you need to do, the protocol, the procedures of how things are going to work for the place that you're going, for the place that he's sending you. So the next time, as you're praying and asking the Lord for that exposure that you want, for the increase, for the influence, all those things, make sure you ask yourself first, have I been prepared to be presented? And if your answer is no to that, then a transition season is sure to come. Okay, like it's coming. It's on the way. It's going to be on the way. Um, but just be mindful of that. Be mindful that it is going to be on the way. And if you and you might be currently experiencing it. So make sure that you're taking inventory of the things that God may be preparing you for in this season so that you will be prepared when he does give you the exposure that you want and the blessings that you want within the next season. So that is today's episode, you guys. I hope you enjoyed this little episode. Again, I'm trying to do a bit more of it. We're going to dive more into transitions next week and talk a bit more about another facet or a different angle. But in the meantime, make sure that you leave a comment. Let me know about transitions period that you've gone through recently or in the past that you're in right now that you may want to disclose and share with the class, share with the community. I'd love to hear your viewpoint and all the things. I have all the transition stories, so I'm sure I'll be sharing a bit more of that as well. But I thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you for continuing to like, share, and subscribe. And until next time, remember to stay encouraged. Bye.